All right, well, welcome to everybody on our Facebook Live presentation. We are here at Boost Biz Ed. We have a crowd here to see Ginger speak today, but want to do a quick intro on what Boost Biz Ed is. Boost Biz Ed is a networking and educational organization. I know the founder. I met Drew, let's just say more than a decade ago, because I don't do math anymore. And we had networked everywhere and done a lot of different things, networking, going to educational classes and networking events. Drew came up with a brilliant idea that we could combine the two, or he could, because he started the whole thing. So almost 9 years ago, Drew started Boost Biz Ed as a little coffee shop meeting where 10, 12 people came together, and we all did our little commercials like we did at the beginning of this one here. If for you that aren't in the room, you don't get to do that, so show up next time. We all did the little commercials, and then we'd literally go around the room, hey, who learned something cool in business that you can share this week? And we'd say, hey, I learned about the Facebook thing. That thing's going to be hot. Or whatever it was that we learned, and we'd go through. It evolved from that, yes, quiet, I'm official here. From that, it evolved into one meeting that was downtown out of Drew's office space, into his conference room, and then it grew into different co-working facilities, and now we have 5 locations, 3 in Colorado, 1 in Corvallis, Oregon, and 1 in San Diego, California. We're looking to expand to other locations. I think the Springs is coming soon. So if you live in Colorado Springs and don't want to drive up, or maybe if you live in Longmont and you don't want to drive down, we can possibly look at those other locations as well. So we bring in great speakers now. There's a whole vetting process. Somehow Ginger got through it, so she's presenting to us today. Yes. I actually watched her little promo video when we were screening, and that's all I had involvement in. But we bring in speakers that actually fly in some cases, to present materials from anything from management training, sales training, personal development, how to be in the top 3%, which we had last week. So lots of different stuff going on. So I don't know if you people on Facebook can see this, but here is Ginger. You'll see her live in a minute. I told her to wear the same outfit, and she just didn't listen to me, so she's wearing something different today. For those of you that are in the room after, you can take a picture of this, and it'll register you as I am here, or you can go to this website here, boostbized.com/I am here, and put in your information. You'll get on our newsletter list now announcing the events that you're interested in. So if you only want to go to the tech center, check that box, and you'll get that newsletter for those upcoming events. So in general, they're twice a month. We are the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays here. DTC is the 1st and 3rd Fridays, but don't quote me on that. Go to the website and check it out. Denver, we're actually looking for a new location during Rocky season, because next to the ballpark, parking became a major challenge for people to get in and attend that. So we're looking to relocate the downtown version. Corvallis, you park next to a tree, I think, because it's Oregon. And San Diego, you park next to SeaWorld. I don't know. But so check out those events and their schedules as well. So I think with that, we did all the other stuff ahead of time. So I will introduce Ginger. So Ginger, if you want to come on up here. Ginger Robitaille of Turning the Corner presents Turn Entitlement into Engagement. So Ginger is the COO at Turning the Corner LLC and helps companies and job seekers transform the way they think about work. Utilizing her strong background in staffing and operations, she is accomplished at building teams from the ground up and analyzing current teams to identify their strengths and weaknesses. Ginger specializes in helping job seekers through career coaching and resume writing to assist them throughout the job search process. She is also an HR generalist, so she's got some kind of fancy degrees and letters after her name and all that kind of stuff. I don't mean to mock you. It's all important stuff. I have none of those letters. And she helps small companies as they grow, providing HR consulting, recruiting, and leadership training within those companies. So with rousing applause, let's welcome Ginger to the front of the room.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone, live and remote. It's great to be here. I always like to start by giving you a little bit of background on me, because why am I presenting about how to provide engagement to your team members and keep them engaged as a leader and manager of your organization. And so why am I somebody that can give you information on this? Why am I an expert? Well, let me give you a little bit of background. So I come from being a manager, right? I didn't start HR. I was an operations manager, and I went to the school of hard knocks. So I worked for organizations that didn't believe that managers or leaders needed to be trained. They didn't need to have any kind of formal training. You were good at your job. Here you go. Now lead some people, right? So I learned the hard way that that's go. So between my experience and our CEO's experience, Kendra Prospero, who got all of this formal training and how great it was, but it was through workshops and week-long trainings that you get this great binder of information, you learned a whole bunch in class, you go back to work, you put the binder on the shelf, and you go about your day and you never think about it again. Mm-hmm. So we've put together management training for people to actually work through and implement as they go through the training. So today what I want to talk about is actually a high level of what our management training series offers to help you be better leaders and managers to keep your employees engaged. So this brings us to the elephant that is in the room. And that is that 70% of employees are disengaged in their work. 70%. So that's a national number. And of those 24%, right around, it's like 23, 24%, are actively disengaged. What does that mean? That means they go to work and they probably have some office hours that look like this, right? This is how much they're actually working. For those of you that aren't live, let me read some of this to you in case you can't see it very well. But maybe they come in on Monday morning, they work for an hour and a half, they check their email, they get some work done, and then they go on Facebook and probably check all their posts and who's responding, and then they purchase some things on Amazon. Maybe they get another hour in later. They're not truly engaged in what they're doing. And one of the number one reasons for that is bad management, something we actually have control over. And if you've looked at some of the more recent surveys that have been done by Indeed and some other job board aggregators and such, Colorado is one of the worst places to work. Worst places to work. And the reason for that is bad managers. People leave because of bad management. Now, Ginger's opinion is this happens specifically in Colorado. I don't know about California and Oregon, but specifically in Colorado, this happens because we have a lot of startups. We have a lot of small businesses, and we don't have a lot of big corporations. And it's those big corporations that have some kind of management training, mentorship, leadership set up for you to learn how to manage people well and lead them well. Because we don't have those foundational companies, those corporations. People are good at their job, so their manager goes, okay, well, just lead these people do the same thing now. You can do it. All right, I'll see you later. And expect them to do a good job. And when we're leaders and we're new leaders, we don't know what we're doing. We need help. So we need that foundation, and that's where you learn how to keep employees engaged at all levels of employment and all levels of a team. So what are some signs that there's low engagement on your team, right? These are questions that I typically ask groups of people. So do you love your team? As a leader or manager, do you love coming to work? Do you enjoy working with the people on your team? If not, there's probably a reason, and they're probably feeling the same feeling as you are. Right? Do you have high turnover? So does anybody here, have you experienced high turnover?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That comes when people are disengaged, right? They don't feel valued, or they don't see their connection to what the company has to offer. It's up to us as leaders to help them see that vision. Right? Is morale low? Right? And are results subpar? So are people doing just enough to get by? Right? They're getting their work done, and it's good enough. You know they've done better. But so why is it subpar? It's that disconnection, right, between what they do and the mission and goal of the organization. So if you're streaming with us, you unfortunately don't get the handout because this is going to be a key component today. So I'm going to walk up to the camera because there's also a second site just so you know what it looks like. And maybe I'll do that again later. And this is going to be a key component to what we're talking about today. So there's really 5 main areas that I want to focus on today and give you some just basic information around to get you started to help you make improvements around your management and leadership style. So we have a quote at Turning the Corner that we keep up on our wall at all times that says, "I am not the manager I need to be a year from now." It's a constant process, a continual learning process to make sure we are managing our people to the best of our ability. And as they change and grow, changing how we manage them. So today we're going to talk about confidence management, EQ, dignified conversations, performance management and hiring. These are the key pieces to great management and leadership. So, I kind of want to look at this scene up here so you can see the whole thing. So, we're going to start filling this out for those of you that are in the room. And the top box actually says, there's a blank here that says, number one reason people leave a job. I said one of those top reasons was bad management. That's actually number one. That's the number one. Have any of you ever left a manager? Anybody?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
of course.
Right? We all have. Oh my gosh, I've never had 100%. It's usually the majority, but I've never had 100%. So we've all left a manager, and that's for different reasons, right? So why did you leave?
Because they put me in a job that I didn't want to do.
How about you?
So the vision was very nearsighted, and so trying to work and follow that leadership was not serving me well.
Okay.
For me, it was that management from the store level up kind of presented themselves one way and then evolved into a different one. So I felt like I was misled in the hiring process.
Interesting. So a couple of misalignments here. You're in a job you didn't like. Two different levels of management, leadership weren't aligned, right? They're going different directions, right? So that happens a lot, right? So, but that's something we can control as managers, okay? So, but what we have to do, the first thing we have to do is change our way of thinking, right? We are not managing people. We are managing tasks, right? And that's where confidence management comes from. Or some of you have probably heard of this as situational leadership. Right? There's a time and place for all different types of leadership, even the one a lot of us don't like micromanagement, right? There's actually a time and place for micromanagement. But it's knowing when you need to be what kind of manager to your employees, knowing what level of support that they need. So confidence management is about starting with either a new employee, or maybe it's an employee that's been around for a while, but you're giving them a new task. Same thing, right? They're doing something new, something they haven't done before. So what's going to happen as we go through this is we're going to learn that there's different management styles based on what level, skill level they're at for that particular task. We're managing the tasks that they're responsible for, not the person, right? So their confidence level when they start a new task is obviously going to be low. They haven't done it before, right? So they're not sure of themselves. And their ability to do it, we don't expect it to be high because, again, it's something new. So what do we need to do? We need to have this directive style. We need to actually be doing it for them while they're observing, showing them how to do it, explaining every step as we go. A little bit like micromanagement, right? But we need to be there every step of the way to make sure they understand how to complete the whole task from step 1 to step 25, whatever it might be, right? And if we stick with them and we spend that quality time with them in the beginning, they hit the beginner level where now they've got some more confidence. Like, I know how to do this, I got this, right? But from a manager's perspective, they still haven't done it very much, right? So maybe they're not doing it quite perfect yet, right? So where we were showing them how to do it and doing it for them, we go from that to actually training them, right? We're standing next to them while they do it, providing feedback and information, but we're having them actually do the work. Right? So they still have us right there with them, being incredibly supportive, which gets them to the next level where now they're at intermediate level. So why does their confidence dip? Because now they know what they don't know, right? They can see this task, they know how to do the task, but they see the bigger picture of what it impacts, and now they're scared again, right? So we've got to bring them back to where they go, hey, no, I know what I'm doing, right? Get their confidence level back up because we know their ability is high. We've seen them do this task over and over and over, and every single time it's been right over the last month. So what do we need to do? We need to start coaching them. Don't do it for them. Don't tell them how they're doing it wrong. Say, why are you so unsure of yourself? I've seen you do it right the last 50 times. So what makes you less confident? Or what part of the process or task are you unsure of? And have them answer the question and figure it out on their own, right? Now we're just there to support. We're not doing any doing, we're just supporting. We're coaching them to answer their own questions and build up that confidence, right? By having them answer the questions themselves that they have in their mind. To get them to that final stage where everything is high, they're confident in what they're doing, they're really good at completing the task. So now I get to just delegate. Here you go again, you do a great job doing this, but I'm here if you need anything. Okay. And then we get to go do other stuff, right? It's providing a management style where we're incredibly supportive in the beginning because we're there. We're physically there and we're present with them the whole time, just slowly backing off, to letting them do it on their own. Right? Which is where we'd love to be on day one, right? But I like to say, if we go slow, then we can go fast. If we provide the support up front and follow a management style like this, then our employees are better equipped to really get it done later, and we don't need to be there for them as much. They just come when they have a question. Right?
Would you articulate to this staff member or employee or follower, would you articulate, like, hey, I know for the next 45 days I'm going to be incredibly directive, straightforward, be here, but then phase 2 I'm going to, in 45 days and to 60 days really be more just training? Like, would you articulate this to an employee to show them the roadmap, or are you just doing this process?
So it can be a little bit of both, right? So for a new employee, you might be laying out an onboarding plan, basically, right? So you're probably going to lay out, this is usually about how long it takes to pick this up or do this or do that, but we'll adjust as we go based on how quickly you're learning and where your comfort level is, right? If you've got an employee that's just learning a new task, then it's more of, okay, let me show you this task. You don't really have to lay it out for them. They're probably familiar with your management style already. So it could be a little bit of both. But if you're looking to make a change in how you're currently managing, if you're managing folks now and you're looking to make a change, I encourage people to tell your team what you're doing. Hey, so I'm taking some management courses and I've learned about this thing called situational leadership. So I want to try and adjust some of my management style and things that I'm doing to support you guys better. So as I'm making adjustments and you're seeing these, and I'll probably talk you through some of them, what I'm doing, I want your feedback too. Am I doing a good job? So it's also opening yourself up to be open to their feedback, because then also, if you open up that line of communication with them, they'll be like, I like this, I don't like that, right? And that's you getting to know your employees on an individual basis as well, so you know how to support them going forward. What style do they like? What don't they like? Right? So once we've got situational leadership under control or confidence management, and we look at our employees and we've looked at each task that they're responsible for and what level are they at, so we can manage to that, then what we also need to look at next is not being a jerk when things don't go well, right? We're human beings, and so there's going to be mistakes made. And what happens here is we often let our emotions take over when there's a situation where something's not great, right? So it's learning how to control those emotions. So have you heard of EQ before? Raise of hands. Okay, great. So that's what we're talking about here, emotional intelligence. And there's been new studies found that our EQ is actually much more important than our IQ, especially when we're managing people, right? So what we want to do with emotional intelligence, it's about having self-awareness first and then being able to see what's going on for another individual in order to support them from a leadership perspective. So we have to start with ourselves. And if there's a certain person or certain situations that you find you're triggered with, and when I say triggered, you have some kind of emotional reaction, right? So if you're familiar with how our emotions work through our body, and this is why they take over sometimes when we don't get to the better communication part, is because our emotions come up and rise through our body, and they come from the back of our brain over to our amygdala, where it takes control, right? So the emotions are they're happening, I feel them, I'm either angry, frustrated, excited, whatever it is, and by the time it gets here where we actually get to think about it and go, okay, I need to control whatever this emotion is, I'm not gonna open my mouth until I do, it's already too late. We're like, why the heck did you do that? We did that right here. We didn't get a chance to start thinking about what the emotion was first. And we need to train ourselves to actually recognize the emotion. What is it? Am I feeling frustrated, angry, sad? What am I feeling? Recognize what the feeling is and why, and then open our mouths so that we can have more professional and dignified conversations, right? So that starts with us recognizing our own emotions and certain things and situations that trigger us, so we can start thinking about how to deal with them. And once we can do that, then we can also identify what's going on for the other person, right? And we're either recognizing triggers for them, or we're asking them. It seems that I've triggered an emotional response out of you. Can we talk about that for a moment, right? And it's understanding these emotions to help you know how to interact with the individual situation that's going on right now. And oftentimes, maybe even taking a pause and saying, I think we both were triggered with just what just happened because we might lose this customer. I'd love to take 15 minutes and just go cool off, and then can you meet me back at my office so we can talk about what happened and come up with a solution, right? Giving you some time to reflect and work through your emotions so that then you can have a great conversation with the employee, right? So once we have confidence management in place, we're able to work with our emotions and recognize them and understand them. It sounds like a lot to process, but if you just practice it, it happens fairly quickly, right? Which leads us to how do we give feedback, or how do we communicate with our employees? If we haven't worked through our EQ yet, this is what happens, right? We let our emotions take over. Where if we have, then we're able to have dignified conversations. And that's something that I was called skillful conversations, right? Most people in the industry will call them difficult because they're usually not fun conversations. We're talking about someone's performance where maybe they're not doing well. When they're doing well, it's easy to have a conversation about you're doing great, right? And telling them what they're doing great at. The hard part is when something is not going well, and that can be whether it's performance, a task that they're working on, or behavioral issues that are causing them not to work well with the team. And those need to be addressed. You can't just ignore them, right? So how do we have these dignified conversations and do it well? And I call them dignified because at the end of the conversation, both parties should be able to leave with their dignity. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a conversation about you can't work here anymore, right? So how do we do that? Dignified conversations start with the end in mind. We have to know what our desired outcome is. What are you trying to accomplish with the conversation? If you can't answer that question, you don't need to have the conversation. There's no goal, there's no purpose, right? So start with that end in mind. What am I trying to accomplish? What do I need to get out of this conversation, right? And then start thinking about what those trigger points are. So if you faced this situation before, are you talking about the same issue with an employee for the third time, right? Well, that's a trigger point for you. So what kind of emotions do you have typically when you interact with them or when you face this situation again, right? Recognize what those are, but also think about what they might be feeling, right? Which will help you come up with how you want to start this conversation. What questions do I need to ask? What do I need to talk to them about, right? So this is where those of you in class were on the back of the handout. So here it is again, so you can see it. But we're talking about what is your desired outcome, and then identifying the trigger points for you and the person that you're talking to, right? And this is where you need to have a conversation where both of you are heard, right? You need to be listened to. So once you know what your outcome is for the conversation, then you need to think through, okay, what questions do I need to ask to get information from this person to really understand the situation? Why does this keep happening over and over again, right? And think through those questions. You know your employee best. What kind of questions do you need to ask? How are they going to respond to those questions? And be prepared for all of that so that you can listen to what they have to say, but then you also have an opportunity to give your perspective. So you ask them some open-ended questions to find out really what the situation is and why isn't this working? We've tried a few different ways for you to do this correctly. It doesn't seem to be working. What's the holdup? Can you explain that to me? You listen to what they have to say, ask some clarifying questions and say, okay, I understand where you're coming from. Repeat what they say and then say, now I want to share with you my perspective, right? And they need to listen to you as well. So once you've both been heard, then you can come together and say, okay, what's the solution gonna be, right? Dignified conversation. Both parties get heard and a solution is brought to the front, right? And sometimes that happens in one conversation and sometimes that happens in 2 or 3. It just depends on the situation. But that's an outline of a dignified conversation. And what's important to remember as you have these conversations, it's about the performance, not the person, right? We are managing tasks. We're not managing a person. So we are looking at how they're performing in different tasks. So they might have 5 things they're responsible for. Maybe 2 of them they do really well. You know, remind them of that. And then have a more detailed conversation around what's not working so you can fix it. Okay, so we've covered confidence management, EQ, dignified conversations. So we've got 3 of our 5 topics covered. Now, let's talk about performance management. All right, so performance management is about setting goals for your employees and really helping them understand what their role and what their part is in the bigger picture of the organization, or even their role within the department and then the organization, right? Depending on the size of your company. And so we need to set goals and have a vision for them. We need to spell out that vision for how that connection plays out, right? Because if we have a clear vision and they have a clear vision of how their work connects to the overall objectives of an organization, they're going to get to accomplish those goals faster because they know exactly where they're headed. So how do we do that? Well, if I was your manager and I just came and said, okay, your goal over the next quarter is to go to the mountains. Go do it. Right? Do you guys know what to do? How are you going to get there? Nobody knows.
Hopefully drive.
Hopefully drive. Some people might walk. Some people might ride their bike. Right? Which mountain are you going to go to?
Mount Evans, because you can easily drive up.
I thought you were going to say Pikes Peak.
No, I've hiked that one. I'll drive that one.
On that. So, what I call a mountain goal is what I just said, right? So a company version of that is increase membership by 2018. Okay, well that leaves a lot of things very vague and unclear, right? There's a lot of ways to increase membership in 2018, but by how much? Where do I find these people? Yeah, yeah. What did you say?
Which groups?
Which groups? Yeah, where are we going to find these people? Right? So we need to give more specific and outlined goals to help them see that connection and that vision, right, to the overall objectives. So again, what they're doing is going to help us reach the big picture, right? So we do that through SMART goals. Who's familiar with SMART goals? Oh, Brian. I've got a SMART group here. Okay. So the SMART goal model. So let's step through it. If you're not familiar with it out there, let's lay out the pieces. Okay? First, it has to be specific. So we're not just going to go to the mountain. Which mountain? Right? Mm-hmm. Where are we headed? It's, which mountain in Colorado? We've got a lot of options. It has to be measurable. So how are we going to know we succeeded? Right? So getting to the top, right? Is that the goal? Maybe not. Maybe we're only trying to get to 10,000 feet to see above tree line. We need to make it measurable. It's got to be achievable. Is it something that we can actually do as an individual or as a team? Right? Do we have enough control over the situation? Oops. And then is it realistic? Right? Is this something we can actually do? Does it match with the bigger company vision? And time bound. So when does it need to be done? Right? This gives a much clearer view of what the person or the group needs to accomplish. So if we take our basic goal of increase membership by 2018 to this, by the end of 2018, we're time bound, we're going to increase membership is the goal by 400. So it's measurable, right? By 400 new logos through events, outreach, marketing, and policy impact, right? So it's specific. It's something that we're probably the marketing and sales team, so we've got some control over this, right? And we've got a budget, so your boss will talk to you about that too, okay? But having a SMART goal makes it very clear what you need to accomplish. And you don't want to overwhelm your employees with lots and lots of goals. I ask that you keep it simple, right? There's usually 1 to 3 things that are important by quarter, right? That are going to align with 5 to 6 yearly goals for your organization. That's just basic outline. But you don't want to overwhelm them. So help them find the small steps that are going to reach the bigger goals. So as an organization for Turning the Corner, we're a company of 10 people, so we're not huge. We have 10 regular employees and 6 contractors that we work with. And we've got to keep everybody moving towards the same goal, right? So what we do, the managers on our team with each of our employees, we have what we call quarterly rocks. And those are their goals for the quarter that are going to help us reach our year-end goals, which then we have 3 and 10-year goals. So we've got some big, hairy ideas out there, if you've heard of that phrase, right? But all working towards those things. And you know what? Once you write them up and you decide as a team what those goals are, you can change them. So if things change with your organization or things change with resources that you have or your ability to do certain things, you might need to adjust your goals, and that's okay. They need to be achievable. So adjust as you go, but make it a team conversation. And the last piece is hiring. So a lot of us inherit teams, so we get people that we didn't get to pick, right? They're already in place. So we got to do what we can with the people that are there, good and bad, right? But if we get to add new members to the team, or we're creating a new team, then we want to do it right from the get-go, right? We want to know how to hire correctly. So there are 3 main pieces to hiring the appropriate individual or teams, right? And we all think of this strengths and skill side, right, of this triangle that I have up here. This is part of the perfect fit, right? So they need to have the skills that we need them to have for that particular role, whatever it is, of course, right? They need to have some strengths in that area. But the 2 things that a lot of people forget about when they're hiring is that personality piece. So what kind of culture do we have in our organization? Who do we already have on the team? What kind of personality is going to mesh with the people that are already here and the culture that we've created? Right? So that's another piece. They can have all the skill in the world. They might be amazing at what we need them to do. They might not get along with anybody that's already there. Right? That's going to cause a lot of conflict. Reduce your productivity. Right? So think about the personality match. What kind of personality, behavioral characteristics do you need in this individual to mesh well along with having the skills? And the last piece is understanding what the candidate's needs are. What do they need out of a job? A hiring manager needs to know this because they need to understand what their lifestyle looks like. Is the culture that we have at our organization going to match what they need to be happy overall, not just at work, right? So when we say lifestyle fit, we're talking about, do they need a flexible schedule? Or are they someone that needs a structure of 8 to 5, right? What does our culture provide? Does it match what they need, right? So it's important to ask them questions about, what do you need out of a job? What does your ideal work environment look like? Right? Getting those questions answered helps you make sure that this last piece of this triangle fits into place. So the skills are just one piece. Of course, they're going to have to meet this, I call that the bare minimum. They're going to have to be able to do what the job requires. But then we need them to get along with the rest of the team and be able to collaborate, as well as align with how we work, how we run our business. Yes?
Do you have specific assessments or tools to help evaluate that kind of stuff? Because over the years I've taken all like the strengths finders and all the different discs and all those different tests. Which ones do you use and recommend to help, I guess, analyze either current or prospective employees?
There's a lot of different options out there, right? So if you've been in management for a while or you come from a psychology background, you're like an assessment freak probably. Like I am, I love it. I see your face over there. I love them. I'll take some more. Give me some questions. But some of the ones are like, so StrengthsFinder gives you a lot of great information that you can then manipulate and look at in a lot of different ways. I'm not a huge fan of Myers-Briggs. Puts people in a box and you can't get out of it, right? What we use at Turning the Corner, and we use it for our recruiting when we're recruiting for companies, but also for our individuals when we're career coaching, is OPQ 32. So it's a horrible name, and someday we'll get them to change it, but it stands for Occupational Personality Questionnaire. And the 32 comes from you measuring you on 32 competencies, which I like to say 64, because they put everything on a scale of 1 to 10, so we really get both sides, right? And I like that one because I like the scaled approach, right? Because we're looking at how people are hardwired. How do they work naturally when it comes to interacting with people, processing information, their decision-making skills, and it measures all these things. And even on this scale, if they're a 2 or they're a 9, that tells me where they like to work, what kind of space they like to work in, and where they go naturally. If they're a 9, can they be a 2? You bet they can work in a 2 capacity, but not for very long. It's going to drain them of all their energy. So they need to get back to that 9 space as soon as they can. So it's about seeing where you like to work, knowing that you can move up and down that scale when you need to, but where do you want to be? And that really helps us see what kind of team or environment they need to be in. And really how they process information is a huge factor, right? For whatever kind of role they're going into. So it's great to look at for teams, right? We're able to do a gap analysis when they utilize this report. Say, okay, where are our strengths? Do we have any gaps in the different skill sets that are on our team that we need to identify? But then when you're using it as an individual career coaching, they really can see, is the work I'm doing really aligning with how I like to operate and who I am already? Right? So it's a pretty cool assessment. So it's SHL is the one that gives the assessment. If you guys are assessment geeks out there and want to take a look at that, because they have the OPQ 32, but then they can do the 360s and a lot of other assessments that they have available. But that's our favorite.
Does that pop out the answer? You should be a.
No, wouldn't that be great?
Oh, okay.
I wish somebody would tell me.
When you grow up, you should be a.
Right, yes. We don't want people just to give us the answer, right? That's what a lot of people want in career coaching too. You really got to tell them up front. No, it's about discovering yourself. I'm not going to give you an answer.
Well, the test should tell me who I am.
Right. But when you align all of these 5 things, right? So we've got confidence management, EQ, dignified conversations, performance management, and knowing how to hire, maybe, we all get to work in our strengths. So this is my team at Turning the Corner, and we talk about the elephant in the room a lot. This is Hope. It's a really sad day when we have to deflate her to transport her, so occasionally Hope gets deflated about 5-6 times a year to go on the road. But then we pop her back up, and she's ready to go again. But when you identify, aligning a person with what they're good at and what you need in your organization, and you're supporting them from that management and leadership perspective in all the areas they need and at the different levels based on their ability and willingness to do a task, then you have them working in their strengths and you are unstoppable. You become team mission impossible. That's what I like to say, right? Anything is possible. And I believe that with our team. When I look at who is on our team, I don't know what we do without one of them, right? They all play a key role, and we're a small company, so we all wear multiple hats. But if I had to say, if somebody left us today, I'd be like, I don't know what we do, right? And that's how you should feel about your team. You should want them all there. You should want to spend time with them and support them in their individual growth while you're also meeting your business objectives. So this is a very high level overview of what we offer as part of our management training series. It's 6 classes over 12 weeks. And like I said, we don't want you to get a binder and then go back to work and put up on a shelf after like 3 or 4 days of training. So it's 12 weeks, 6 classes every other week in 2-hour increments. And so those 2 hours each cover one topic. And in between the classes, we're asking you to implement what you've learned. And you come back to the next class, we talk about it, and then we teach you the next thing. And then you also have us as coaches. So there's 3 instructors for the series, and you have availability to us throughout the 12 weeks to also work with you one-on-one as you're implementing the different elements that you're working on. And so we can have one-on-one meetings in between all of the classes and assist you in that way, as well as having them in the group forum to keep learning and growing as managers. So I've got the website up here. I think they're putting it on Facebook and things as well. There's also a text opt-in if you guys want some more information on the management material that we covered today. So are there any questions? Well, thank you so much for having me, Paul, and thank you everybody for coming today.
Thank you.
This is great.
Yay, thank you.
All right, well, let's give one more round of applause. And no questions at all? I think I'm not on camera, am I? Not quite there. Oh.
I actually do have one.
Yeah.
So per your first portion of the confidence building, and I know I'm not calling that right, but so self-efficacy. Where does self-efficacy, where they can really truly know that their ability, their confidence, where does that conversation lie?
So it should be happening along the way, right? So it should be happening as they're progressing. You're telling them what they're doing well and what's not working, and then you're like, okay, now you're doing the whole thing well. So it's about giving them that support and feedback throughout the process, throughout the different stages. So when you get to that final stage where you're just letting them do it, it's no surprise. And you're not having to tell them, okay, you're on your own now. The conversations we have just built up to, you just walk away and they don't even know you're gone, right? Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you for speaking.
Yes.
For all those online, there's your information. I think we'll make sure it's posted as one of the comments on there, but if you have questions or need to follow up, you can always post comments there, and Ginger and her team will follow up with you via Facebook and go into a real medium to have a real conversation as well. So I prefer doing things by phone. I'm old school, so.
Yeah, I know phone is old school now.
I know it's old school, and this whole texting thing, I'm still learning. But with that, I want to say thank you again. We will get some feedback, so I'll pick on probably just one person here. So Phaedra, you want to come up and do what you learned today? You know, do a quick intro, who you are, what you do, and then kind of what you learned. If you want to stand over there, I'll make sure you're on camera.
Okay. My name is Phaedra Shinaki. I am an independent distributor with Senegence International, but I was previously in the restaurant and bar and food business on the retail side for 25 years before going into business for myself. And I think for me, my biggest takeaway is I've really grown and developed my own way of having those difficult conversations over the years, and it's never anything I enjoy doing, but I'm good at it. And it's, you know, which kind of has its pros and cons. You never wake up in the morning and go, oh, I can't wait for so and so to screw up so I can sit down and talk to him. But I like the way that you refer to it as being a dignified conversation and making sure, because that's how I always approached it once I developed that style of management, and having that conversation is to make sure that it is being handled in an appropriate and professional manner, but that just kind of brings the point home a little bit more for me. So I like referring to it as a dignified conversation. I think I'm going to do that from here on out. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Phaedra. All right, and then this event is put on by people like me who volunteer our time, so I don't get paid to make all the bad jokes, funny jokes at the front of the room. So there are a couple of us that are involved here. Up on the screen, our presenting ally today is Ginger, so Turning the Corner LLC, so if you need help, either as searching for a new job or managing your team and recruiting new people, she'd be a great person to reach out to. And again, all over Facebook there will be links that I don't know how to use. We have the event space here, so Connie, I'm going to have you come up here, but Switchboard Networking Boutique lets us use this space as part of what she does. So you come on up and...
Wonderful. Well, we are super excited, Ginger. Thank you for really serving your expertise in this space. That's why we exist. So I'm Connie Kircher. I serve as the owner and founder of Switchboard Networking Boutique here in Westminster, Colorado. We are very, very blessed that you can see all of our wonderful Business in a Box partners behind us. And so we are a micro, if you will, a micro retail space for local business owners here in Colorado to have a dream come true of being able to have a shared storefront. And then where we are serving right now in the large venue, we rent out by the hour, and we also have an executive suite for face-to-face, knees-to-knees, heart-to-heart education, training, networking groups to happen. So the best way to connect with us will be on our website, switchboardnb, as in networkingboutique.com, to see a virtual tour. Go ahead and check out what some of our professional development looks like, and also how to connect with our local Business in a Box partners. Super excited to see you guys back here in 2 weeks. Thanks, Paul.
All right, thank you, Connie. Connie's also filling in as our coordinator, so helping greet everybody and do all the printouts and make sure I have all the paperwork that I'm supposed to be reading right now. So, which is over there somewhere. Our founder, Drew Shockley, I mentioned at the very beginning, his full-time job is he runs a business doing website development. So his business is Call to Action Alliance. If you run a business and you have a website and it's not doing what you need it to do, his whole goal is to have people come to your website and actually do business with you. Hence Call to Action Alliance. So he builds websites that have a call to action and convert those visitors, leads, prospects into actual customers. So feel free to reach out to him at ctaalliance.com. And then I am Paul Socek. I actually work with a company called Team National. So we are a national savings organization. We do two different things. I focus more on the business side of things, but it was formed as a national co-op. So we partner with, right now, it's only about 10,000 different businesses, and our members get access to discounts at those businesses. So if you shop at, some of the lower name, not well-known companies like Target or Home Depot or Lowe's, or I bought a headlight at Advance Auto Parts yesterday, we get discounts at all of those stores, plus hundreds of local businesses in every metro area that I've been to so far. From the business side, you get access to market to our 2 million members. So whether you're a plumber that works in Longmont and you have a local market there, or as I was when I joined, a printer who could print nationwide and ship across the country, you get access to market to that entire membership base for what I call the infinite ROI, because mine truly became infinite when I calculated after 4 years of running my print shop through and marketing through that organization. So that's what I do when I'm not making bad jokes in front of the room. So with that, I will end the Facebook Live. So we're going to continue networking in the room here. For all you Facebook people that couldn't get off the couch, out of the bed, get showered, whatever your excuse is, Make sure that you come to one of our events in person, because you get to take advantage of all the networking that we do in the room and actually get actual physical copies of the handouts, so we don't have to hold them in front of the screen for you. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye to the Facebook people, and we will continue the networking here in the room.